An issue between a couple ends with a Dane County man's death. Now the 3 people charged in this case head to court.
New information concerning the deadly gas explosion in Sun Prairie, as court documents indicate a gas line was marked incorrectly by some 25 feet.
This is News 3 at 6.
But first, deputies are investigating a homicide in rural Dodge County.
Officers were called to a home in the town of Lebanon. News 3's Amy Reed at the scene right now with the very latest. Amy?
Yeah, the sheriff's office was called to this house here almost exactly 24 hours ago, about 6:15 in the evening. But this information was just released this afternoon. They came to reports of a death, and once inside, the sheriff's office found a man's body, and they believe that he was killed. The sheriff's office told me they had people on this all night and into the morning, and they have a suspect in custody now on unrelated charges. They also said they can't release who it is yet. They're still trying to get a positive ID on the victim and notify the family. There are still a few questions that remain on this. We don't know how long the person was dead here before the sheriff's office responded, and they also couldn't tell us who called it in. It is an active investigation, and until they get the details in place, the sheriff's office said they couldn't release any more information. But the sheriff's office is still sending people to the scene. A car pulled in just before we did and left about a half hour ago, and we'll continue to follow this and give you more information as soon as we find it.
All right, Amy Reed reporting tonight. Amy, thank you.
A woman and 2 men are facing felony homicide charges in Dane County Court. Prosecutors say the woman asked the 2 men to confront her boyfriend because she suspected him of cheating. News 3's Keely Arthur shares what happened next.
That's right. We knew that 24-year-old Dalton Ziegler was beaten Monday night and left for dead, but we didn't know exactly what led up to that. Today, we learned more at court.
Miss Tracy was in a relationship with Mr. Ziegler.
20-year-old Michaela Tracy sobbing in Dane County Court today as details of what happened the night Dalton Ziegler died came to light.
Ms. Tracy summoned essentially Mr. Luber and Mr. Johnson to come to the residence. She shared with Mr. Ziegler to confront him and catch him red-handed because she thought he was cheating on her. That's what resulted in the confrontation and the physical violence.
The victim and Tracy shared an apartment together in the town of Dane. According to court documents, Drew Luber and Jacob Johnson showed up at the home late Monday.
Mr. Johnson struck Mr. Ziegler multiple times, likely while Mr. Luber was holding him, although there are some statements suggesting that Mr. Luber also took turns in battering Mr. Ziegler.
Luber is the 3rd suspect. He's also facing separate battery charges for assaulting a nitty-gritty employee earlier this year. So while this is not his first violent crime, it is certainly his most severe.
It appears that Mr. Luber, as well as his co-defendants, are going to be charged with felony murder.
Ziegler wasn't found until Tuesday morning, hours after the beating, when another person came to the residence and called 911. But it was too late. All 3 suspects are due back in court later this month.
Now, Ziegler's family was at court. They declined to comment. However, I did connect with some of his friends on Facebook who spoke very highly of him, saying he was the kind of person who would give you the shirt off his back. And in fact, he did, in one case, do just that.
Keely, thank you.
Well, after a very pleasant Halloween night, November begins, and we check in with meteorologist Dave Caulfield, our first alert forecast. Dave?
Eric, November began on a little bit of a chilly note across southern Wisconsin because the clouds were pretty stubborn throughout today. A little bit of sunshine. We're actually seeing a very nice sunset take shape in Platteville on our Queen Bee Radio Skycam, and also here in Madison on the WISC-TV Skycam. Temperatures are not showing up in some spots. Not sure why that is. Maybe a bit of the November blues there. 44 in Madison, 46 in Janesville, and 51 in Boscobel. That's quite a bit cooler for most of us, about 5 to 10 degrees cooler compared to Halloween night, and wind speeds out of the north at about 5 to 10 miles per hour, so that breeze shouldn't be a problem. This evening, temperatures falling through the 40s into the upper 30s, the clouds sticking around, and it will be chilly. When I come back in just a few minutes, we'll talk about a quiet and chilly start to the weekend, but some changes are on the way to start next week in your first alert forecast in just just a few minutes.
All right, Dave, thank you. Court documents are providing new information about this summer's deadly gas explosion in Sun Prairie. Those documents reveal the gas line struck, which led to the explosion, was not properly marked. Those markings 25 feet to the north of where the gas line actually was. Jamie Perez has those documents and more details tonight. Jamie.
Right, and those documents were actually filed on July 30th and unsealed on October 17th. Now, while investigators have made significant headway on this, what was revealed in these documents is just one small part of a much larger investigation.
As investigators work to get to the bottom of this. What we do know provides another piece to the puzzle. According to an unsealed search warrant, the marking that's supposed to indicate where a gas line is was marked 25 feet to the north of where the gas line actually was. When contractors were digging and struck that unmarked gas line, it ended up costing Fire Captain Corey Barr his life.
He would have been one of the next upcoming business leaders in the downtown, I believe.
This search warrant was filed to search the streets for evidence that could potentially support a charge of second-degree reckless homicide. USIC is the company that locates utilities and marks them. This warrant also indicates that it's not certain USIC uses utility mapping, but if a map was used, the locator should have seen that error. Surrounding business owners who were close by when the explosion happened have mixed feelings at this point in the investigation.
It's an accident. And I really am more concerned with rebuilding the downtown and making it better than ever.
It's pretty sad if somebody neglected to do their job properly and it caused that gentleman's life because of a mismarking of something that's pretty critical.
Investigators contacted the employee believed to have made those incorrect markings. We're going to retract his name, but he told investigators he wasn't going to comment on whether or not he painted the utility markings at that intersection. At this point, some think it's too early to point fingers.
I don't think that assigning blame anywhere is going to help us now.
Others say no matter who did it, it shouldn't have happened at all.
You know, something like that's that important. It's critical that you do your job right.
We reached out to many of the investigators that are involved in this case. None were available for comment. Many didn't even return our messages. Of course, this investigation is ongoing. We'll be following it and providing updates as the information becomes available.
All right, Jamie Perez reporting. Jamie, thank you.
With 5 days until the election, the battle over protections for people with pre-existing conditions continues in Wisconsin. Governor Walker is a longtime opponent of the Affordable Care Act, but at a campaign event today in Waukesha, Walker said he wants to enact the exact same language that's in the federal law to guarantee insurance coverage for people with pre-existing conditions. Evers is telling voters not to believe that because Wisconsin is currently involved in a lawsuit to repeal the Affordable Care Act, an authorization Walker made.
No matter what happens in the courts or in the Congress in Wisconsin, we will codify that. The exact same language that's in the Affordable Care Act. We'll make sure that everyone living with a pre-existing condition is covered here in the state.
People in Wisconsin know this is just a typical politician, Scott Walker, doing and saying one thing and doing completely the opposite.
The federal government has also approved a waiver imposing a work requirement in order to be on Medicaid in Wisconsin. This is a proposal Walker championed, but Evers says the current governor is diverting attention from the issues that matter and promises to accept the federal Medicaid expansion money that Walker turned down. Candidates running for office in Wisconsin are campaigning full force this week. Today, Senator Tammy Baldwin met with students at UW-Madison, where she cast her ballot and encouraged people in Wisconsin to vote and vote early. Her opponent in the U.S. Senate race, Republican Leah Vukmir, was in Waukesha today, where she talked about unemployment rates and health care with other GOP leaders. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, is campaigning with Vukmir today in Appleton.
Crowded cafeterias and outdated facilities, those are some of the reasons Edgerton schools are asking for a referendum worth more than $40 million. Our Rock County reporter Adam Duxter spent time in Edgerton schools and tells us why the superintendent is saying these changes need.
It's lunchtime at Edgerton High School, yet many students are not in the cafeteria, rather outside of it.
Kids are eating on the floors. They eat on the stairs because we don't have adequate space in our cafeteria.
It's something that District Superintendent Dr. Dennis Powley wants to change, but it's not his only frustration. Nearby, the community elementary school is also crowded and outdated, Powley says.
An overcrowded school, lack of flexible learning space, overcrowded cafeteria, and just very cramped schedules.
Pauley hopes both of these issues would be solved, however, with an upcoming referendum opportunity next week. Despite most people in the voting area not having a child in the district, he says these improvements could have a larger impact.
Families are looking for communities to live in. It's typical the first place they look are the schools. How are the schools performing, and the facilities themselves. And I think that is a factor in why people may choose to move to a community or may choose not to.
Because Pauley says despite the best efforts of the district, these issues can't be solved without additional help from the community.
We've done as much maintenance as we can, but now we're to the point where the needs far exceed what we're able to do in an annual budget.
Now, the referendum would come with some tax implications, and Pauley says the increases would be about $100 per $100,000 in property values. From our bureau at the Janesville Gazette, Adam Duxter, WISC News 3.
And for a link to the full referendum, you can visit our website, channel3000.com.
He's a football fan with the best seat in the house.
Plus, we're honoring caregivers across Wisconsin, the statewide effort to do so. That's next at 6.
Welcome back. November is now considered Family Caregivers Month in Wisconsin. An event was held at the Capitol today to promote the month. A number of caregivers shared their stories. Caregivers are people who typically provide care to those with disabilities and aging adults. These positions typically are unpaid and for a loved one.
That you have that special caring relationship with your loved one you're providing care for, and that enriches your life.
Nearly 30% of caregivers in America say they have a child or grandchild living with them in addition to the one they care for.
The mortality rate for liver cancer is increasing at a faster rate than any other cancer out there. The number of deaths each year nearly doubled here in Wisconsin from 1995 to 2015. But survival is possible.
When I'm in the dugout, I sometimes talk. There's a little window, but it's open. And then I usually talk with him a lot.
Weird, funny,
It's just like a normal grandpa, but even better.
That's Oliver and Cameron describing their grandfather. Bill Lawton wasn't sure if he'd ever get to meet his grandkids after being diagnosed with liver cancer. Dr. Sam Lubner was part of Bill's treatment team. He's been working with liver cancer patients now for almost a decade and says the slow-moving nature of the disease is one of the reasons the mortality rates continue to rise.
Even in the best of circumstances, you're still left with a diseased liver at the end of treatment. So even if you can come up with a really good intervention, sometimes the person is still pretty sick.
He adds people with liver cancer often don't show symptoms, which makes it hard to detect early on. Factors like obesity and alcohol use can contribute to someone's risk, and those rates have gone up, not down, in recent years. Tonight at 10, we'll share more of Bill's story and what it took to survive this kind of cancer. Friday Night Lights, usually about boys on the field.
After the break, we're introducing you to one man from Mineral Point who has been a big part of the game for 50 years. His story next at 6.
Our weather will remain quiet and cool into the weekend, but by the start of next week, rain chances return. My forecast is coming up.
Meteorologist Dave Caulfield joining us now as we start off the month of November, Dave.
Yes, November 1st today. Where is this year going? And as we take a look at the stats of October, another wet month. What else is new in 2018 for Madison? We got more than twice the average amount of rain for October and actually did receive a trace of snow. We were technically below average because typically in October we do get a ½ inch of snow. We were in the 80s. We were also in the 20s at times, but those temperatures stayed relatively close to normal. And speaking of normal for November, usually we start out the month in the low 50s, so we were just a little bit off of that today, but we end the month with highs in the upper 30s. So there's a big temperature change that occurs during this month, and on average about 2.4 inches of rain and about 3.5 inches of snow. So we'll see if we are a typical month or much more likely in this year, an atypical month. High temperatures today, as I mentioned, a little bit below normal, 49 in Madison, 51 in Lone Rock, and 52 in Janesville. But Doppler track has stayed quiet. I think it will remain that way into tomorrow as well. But on Saturday, a few more showers could come our way. We're in between systems right now. This system producing some rain closer to Chicago, and then we have that other system off to the north and west. High pressure is keeping us dry for now. Live look in Madison as the sun sets on the WISC-TV Skycam. Currently at 44 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, and that north wind at 5 miles per hour. Our high temperature trend is really going to be a couple of degrees off, because we should be in the low 50s, and we'll be a few degrees below that for Friday and Saturday. Right about normal for Sunday and Monday, but then we do start to get a little bit chillier into the middle of next week. I would not vote for this voting forecast, but unfortunately I don't have a choice. It is on the ballot no matter what. We do have the rain chances increasing Sunday into Election Day on Tuesday, and I think we'll have a rainy start, more showers by lunchtime, so more likely than not you'll have to bring the umbrella to the polling place on Tuesday. Keep that in mind. Tonight, no rain expected. Temperatures in the low 30s, partly cloudy and seasonably cold. For tomorrow, chilly and variably cloudy. Highs will be in the upper 40s. Future track will stay pretty quiet over the next 24 hours or so, but temperatures will dip into the low 30s, so another chilly start on Friday. Maybe some more sunshine coming our way later on Friday, but I wouldn't hold your breath too much, because this time of year it's tough to get those clouds to truly leave us alone. Then speaking of those clouds, they come back on Saturday morning, and some of us could see a few light showers to start off Saturday. Then our rain chances go down and go up once again later on Saturday, and we have rain as a good bet from Sunday into Tuesday. Our precipitation potential as we head into next week, some of us could pick up about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. This is a little bit far away, so we're just giving you a sense on the rain chances Sunday through Tuesday could produce a good amount of rain for some of us. After that, though, we are cooling down and drying out across southern Wisconsin.
One of the most important members of Mineral Point Athletics doesn't plan on calling it quits anytime soon. And Greg Gard's having some flashbacks ahead of tomorrow night's exhibition opener. Sports Time is the right time. Next. Mineral Point's football season may have come to an end last week, but the Pointer spirit lives in this community 365 days a year. A big part of that, a guy who's been on the sidelines for a very long time. Melissa Kim shares his story.
Every Friday night in the fall, Mike Gratz has a very important job.
I run the box for the first, second, third, and fourth down.
And the view's not too bad either.
And that's one of the best seats on the whole field is you're right there next to it.
It hasn't always been the easiest gig.
1986 when we played Iowa Grant and the officials made a terrible bad call and we wouldn't move the chains until they were gonna measure it, and we got kicked out of the game.
And his wife, Cindy, well, she's heard her share of stories.
One of the kids was coming off of the field, knocked him down. As long as he can hobble up and down those chains, he's going to be there. I'm very proud of him.
And not just for 51 years on the sidelines.
I just always wanted to give back to the community. You know, they were always good to me.
On June 19th, 1979, Mike lost his daughter Kimmy in a car accident. And 18 years later, the same happened to his daughter Angel on Halloween.
To this day, I mean, there isn't a half an hour that goes by in the day I don't think about them.
A lot has changed in the 70 years that Mike has lived here, but one thing stays the same.
I still get cards from people that, you know, they know how tough it is.
So it's his duty to keep this tightly knit community together.
It's wonderful. That's what's great about Mineral Point. Yeah, that's what's great.
That is what's great. The Wisconsin men's basketball team tips off the exhibition season tomorrow night against UW-Oshkosh, who's coming off a berth in the Division III National Championship. Now, the Badgers had a close scrimmage against Iowa State this past weekend, so tomorrow's going to be a totally different deal. Badgers head coach Greg Gard knows the WIAC, knows D3 basketball from his days at Platteville, and knows what to expect tomorrow night.
There's one thing about Division III players you better understand real quick. Don't play them in horse. You know, they're having coached at that level for quite a while, understanding how good of players they are. And obviously Oshkosh is coming off a terrific year. They get deemed too small, too slow, too this, too that. We've had guys that get that label too, but you go play them and they're really good.
If LeBron James and the Lakers are 7-0, certain networks would be in 24-hour coverage. The Bucks are 7-0, still hungry for some respect. The Deer get their toughest test of the young season tonight against the Celtics in Boston. Giannis back from a concussion and has no plans on slowing down.
We're always going to play with a chip in our shoulders. No matter if we're 7-0, 10-0, 15-0, or we're losing, we're going to play the same way. We're going to keep playing hard and show the world what being a back means.
Business picks up. We shall see tonight.
Yeah, it might be like the 87 Brewers again. 13
We'll see.
Yeah. Knock on what you got.
Quick final check.
Yeah, we have temperatures falling through the 40s into the low 30s. Another chilly start for your Friday. The clouds stick around. Temperatures in the upper 40s as we head into tomorrow, and our rain chances spike up this weekend.
Well, Dave, thank you. And thank you for joining us for News 3 at 6.
Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you back here at 10.